Hello and thank you for watching. So today, my 2017 Porsche Macan, my intention is to fit the replacement radiator and hopefully get the system filled as well for the radiator and potentially the automatic transmission fluid as well. First step is to get this unboxed. And step 2 is to fit the fans onto the back. They just clip in, and these rubber bungs, there's one on each corner, supports where the lock carrier pins go through the middle. So that's the next step. Next step's just adding the feet onto each side. Just torch-headed screws to retain them to the bottom. Next step is adding the intercooler. Clips on this side, screws on at that side, just the one screw. Choice, I could actually put the radiator onto the car first and then put the intercooler on, but I think I'll do it away from the car. Next step is to add the condenser. You can see I've left this piece of the pipe to connected at this side because the screw is obscured by part of the support for the bumper when you put it on the car, so it's easier to connect that and then connect this piece at this end when it's onto the car. So I'll it just slots in, so it's fairly simple to put in place. I'd forgotten that I actually had to take this off because it needs to this piece here needs to pass this as it slips into place past these tabs. So I take it off and then put it back on, so that it's, because that bolt, as I say, is not accessible once it's onto the car. Well, if I took these off, then it would be, or rather that one on that side, but I'd really rather not have to take that off if I can get away with it. So next step is to take the covers off the back of the new radiator protecting it and lift this into place. 2 screws to retain it at the bottom, and then obviously also connecting up all the hoses here. So by connecting these, although they're not although they're not really what's fully to support the radiator, they are enough between the screw at the bottom and these at the top to make sure it's not going to fall out of place. So I'll get that lifted into place. I'll just get some assistance first, make sure I'm not going to damage this one. So the radiator's in place now, and all the connections, I think there's 4 or 5 for the radiator, they're all in place. And in fact there's 4, there's one down the bottom on this side and 3 on this side, and then the 2 are back on this side are for the ATF fluid, one at the top, one at the bottom. They're both both the ATF ones are in, other ones are in as well for the radiator, pushed in, clips pushed down, so that's retained. There's still other stuff to be put back, I've put the air conditioning, I've connected that back up for the condenser, but I haven't put all the connections for other things like horns, etc., and I haven't put the bar back in for the bumper. I thought what I'll do is I'll see if I can draw a vacuum in this coolant system first, and assuming I can, then it's worth putting everything else back on. If there's still some issues, then it's going to make it easier to get into. But if I'm able to draw a vacuum, I'm able to fill the radiator, then this won't need to move again to put all the other bits back. So I've got this connected here, which was just connected to, well, you can see here, it was actually a tyre filler, it was blowing air into the system. That was what I was using before when I worked out I had a leak. I don't think I'm going to use that this time. I'll go straight to putting the gauge back on here and seeing if I can actually draw a vacuum. I'm hoping this time I will be able to, so there's no point in using this to try and prove where the leak is. If though I'm not able to draw a vacuum, then I will probably go back to actually using this to work out where my leak is. This bag here is effectively blocking off the extra hole I think I've talked about before that sits in the outer rib here. So blue tack in that and push down in the bag to fill the gap. Hopefully therefore that's going to make sure it's sealed, and I'm thinking as it's drawing a vacuum I want to pull it in to make sure that it doesn't actually, you know, it's not going to push it out anyway, but I'm hoping by having it in the bag nothing's going to get sucked in. So I'm going to get that set up and set the compressor off to see if it's now going to be able to draw the vacuum that's needed. Well, initial signs are good. I just put it on quite a low pressure to start with, not trying to draw a full vacuum. As you can see, I've turned off the this so it shouldn't be leaking back out. Obviously it's drawn a little bit of a vacuum, and the needle does seem to be sitting fairly steady, so I'm going to leave that a little bit and check that it does actually hold, and assuming it does, that's good. What I then need to do is get myself set up so that it can actually fill, which means having my coolant all ready to draw back in and setting it back up so it has the line that's going to come in, and you replace it with a sort of feed from a reservoir of coolant. So I'm going to wait and see that it's holding the vacuum, and then I'll also look to actually draw a larger vacuum, which means turning up the outlet pressure on the compressor. Nearly forgot what it's called. Turn up the outlet pressure on the compressor, which should push more air past here and draw a bigger vacuum out of the system. Really want to get it up as far as about the amber on this gauge to show that it's actually drawing a vacuum. And the bigger the vacuum that there is in there, the better it should be at drawing back in the fluid to replace the air that's been expelled. So hopefully, as you can see there, the coolant is now just sitting just below the max, which is great. So that was refilled. It didn't use all the coolant I was expecting it to use, which means I think it was probably just refilling the radiator with a lot still round coolant, probably still round the engine. So I've obviously got the spare, and I guess when I start the engine, if it's maybe not been the perfect vacuum I thought it was, then maybe this will start. We'll drop a little and I'll need to top it up, but I've done what I believe is required to get the air out, and hopefully therefore it won't be dropping when I start the engine, but I'll be keeping an eye on that. I think choice is now topping up the ATF fluid or reconnecting everything at the front. So given that topping up the ATF fluid is probably the last thing that's needed before I obviously really want to try and start run the car, need to run up the temperature to properly bleed that. I think what I'll do is I'll get some of these things refitted. I'll stop taking up space in the garage if they're sitting in the right place. So I'll get onto that now. Next on is the air guide, which allows the wiring loom then to be fitted back in, connections for the vanes, moving it back across this side for the horn and the lock and the unused garage control unit. I think the next thing, as I recall, is the lock panel, which sits on top here, which then braces against here. Lock panels in place, screwed in a couple of places, although I'm a couple of screws short, so I haven't got all of them filled yet, but it's secure enough, and the ones that I'm missing I'll be able to access easily enough once I get the screws. The vanes are in place now as well, and connected behind for the electrical connection. Next piece to fit is to put the bumper bar in place, which then allows the bolts to go up through here and also retain the horns. Need on both sides. I have to slightly correct the order things go in. The vanes actually go in after the bumper bar is on, but before the polystyrene cover goes onto it. That way, because there's some catches just on the front of the vanes which sit over the bumper bar, so it's just all a bit awkward to get them all in the right order, but they are there now, and all the electrical connections are done up again. I'm not going to get a chance to get onto the ATF fluid today, but at least with the coolant in the system. That's certainly one thing filled, and I'm now not planning to take this off again at the front. So a bit of progress made today. Hopefully more progress next time. Thank you again for watching.